You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Charles Lewis and Maxilia Robinson. Only on 101 Jams.
You know, for a lot of times people have been calling the Black Lives Matter movement just a bunch of noise, rhetoric, or what have you. But they actually have come out with some clear action items. I think is a beautiful thing. So there were 6 items, and I wanted to just run down this list with you real quick, and just to get your input on wherever you want to chime in. But this particular report that I liked out of the few that I saw was about NBC News, about Tremaine Lee, and it just states, it says it has been nearly 2 years since the killing of Michael Brown Jr. by a police officer in Ferguson, Missouri, touched off outrage and a national movement to save black lives from state violence. Now, just days ahead of the anniversary of Brown's death, a coalition of organizations that grew from that uprising have launched a policy agenda. Key, we're talking about action that needs to be taken. Policy agenda calling for deep criminal justice and policing reforms, right? So the movement for Black Lives, which is under the catch-all banner of the Black Lives Matter movement, right? And the plan is entitled A Vision for Black Lives, Policy Demands for Black Power, Freedom, and Justice, right? So before I get into that list, let me just say that that word Black Power is a very, 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 very strong term that a lot of people have so many misconceptions of, because the people that I know of that always stood behind that moniker were never people hooking people to the back of pickup trucks and dragging them down
Absolutely
roads.
not. Policing their own neighborhoods.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
that's all it was.
I mean, it's the whole. They equate Black Power to white supremacy when that's when literally it's the opposite of that, because the term Black Power came as a reaction to white supremacy and racism.
Right.
It came as a reaction to the term. They're not the same. They're totally different. The only reason, and honestly, when we talk about Black Power, people immediately start thinking about what? The Black Panther Party. But why did they exist in the first place?
Right.
You have to go back to the origin, because black people were being terrorized in the United States of America, and they had to figure out a way to police themselves.
Keyword, terrorized.
Terrorized. You don't hear those. I mean, anyway, keep reading. Keep reading, man.
But it's true though, because whenever we question our existence or our condition, it's always called reverse racism. How? Why?
How did you, if you go back to how something started, it's like you have your 6-year-old child and you walk in the kitchen and there's Kool-Aid on the floor and a broken glass. You say, what happened?
Yeah.
Who did it? How did it get there? Now we have to clean it up. Black Lives Matter was a reaction to the situation of Eric Garner, Michael Brown, all these different things. Now we're seeing, I mean, they can stand, I believe that they've got something in there about environmental racism too. All these different things, which is a reaction to Flint, which is the people that are not in charge have no power. The most powerful people that do continue to harm and mistreat those people. And so, go through some of those, man. Let's see what we got.
All right. But I have to say this too. I was actually talking to a white friend of mine, white man, older gentleman. He also has a ministerial background, successful. And he was telling me how he was talking to another white male who was a little older than him, but has some racist tendencies, right? And so he said that he was mentioning, of course the guy had bad things to say about Black Lives Matter, So my friend then said, okay, so if, let's say that rhinoceroses were near extinction and that there were elements coming through that were like wiping out their population or, like unfairly treating their habitats, right?
Right.
And then people started, taking on a call of action that was titled, rhinoceroses lives matter.
You about to hit me with the rhinos matter?
Yeah. The rhinos matter. So rhinos matter, right? And so the guy said, well, yeah, I would understand that. And then he said, right, so it wouldn't be sufficient enough for someone to say animals' lives matter, because that doesn't deal with the direct issue at hand.
Right.
And of course the guy agreed. And then he said, okay, so how is Black Lives Matter such a big problem then? Because it's not enough to say all lives matter until we deal with this granular issue that's facing us right here in our face, right? All right, so had to throw that in because that was beautiful. So the 6 platform demands are: 1, end the war on black people, which should be a no-brainer, right? You would think.
Nah,
in the year 2016.
I would advise everybody after he just read that, you watch Fox News tonight because they are gonna just watch it so you can see how they literally just they're gonna totally make you confused, and be aware that they're gonna try to confuse you. All right, what's number 2?
2, reparations for past and continuing harms. Started with the reparations. That is another hot button word right there.
I think it's necessary. I don't necessarily think that it's a hot button word. I
agree.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
3, a divestment from the institutions that criminalize, cage, and harm black people, and investment in the education, health, and safety of black people.
Sounds okay.
4, economic justice for all, and a reconstruction of the economy to ensure our communities have collective ownership, not merely access. My financial brother, that's a powerful statement.
Wow, that whoever wrote that, they're expressing themselves very well, very well.
5, community control of laws, institutions, and policies that most impact us. Right? All right, and 6, independent black political power and black self-determination in all areas of society. Now, this is a political list, but that number 6 though crosses all barriers and arenas, because that is a lot of like self-inflection needs to be done by us on that one. I got to repeat 6: independent black political power and black self-determination in all areas of society.
Now, I'm going to throw something at you because, I'm always answering questions. I'm going to ask you one. Mm-hmm. That last one, why do you think that they asked for independent political power? And I'm going to reference it by saying it goes back to a question you asked me a little bit earlier.
Okay. Well, the first thing that I think when I hear that is that it's because we need to stop begging and being killed by a system that was not created for us and doesn't want us and by those who formed it, it was never intended for us.
They don't trust the system. And if you don't trust something, how can you believe in it or actually think that it's going to? The fact that we have to ask if it's going to work for us is already a red flag. Justice is no person being mistreated, and the people that need the most help get the most help. I shouldn't have to ask whether or not I'm going to get justice. And I shouldn't have to ask whether or not somebody's going to be mistreated. All of those questions just reflect the bigger problem in America. I mean, that just sounds like a list that honestly, I guarantee you, if either one of us picked up a Booker T. Washington or a Carter G. Woodson or George Washington Carver or a Marcus Garvey book right now,
W.E.B. Du
those
Bois.
things, those same W.E.B. Du Bois, those same items would be in that book.
Absolutely.
And this is 116 years later.
The
same identical items, which should actually wake people up to saying, hey, wait a minute, what's going on around me? Am I the problem? Because a lot of times it's to pull up my bootstrap. I know a lot of brothers that's pulling up their bootstraps, man. I know a lot of people that are morally correct, that are still being mistreated. I think they said what they said, and I think that those are good points that they brought up, and we will see what happens with them. But I believe I respect them for having enough self-respect to even, I mean, it's almost like putting a bullet on your chest, man, because now you're a target. They're going to be, everybody needs to understand the leaders are going to be mistreated. They're going to get called out. They're going to be called names. They're going to be told to go back to Africa, monkeys, all this. You need to expect that that's going to happen anytime you see black people standing up for themselves and wanting basic necessities. You're also going to start to see the arguments for, well, y'all didn't pick no cotton. Why should you have reparations? That's that's one. You need to expect that this is the rhetoric that they're going to start to say. And even now with those, now you know that they are going to come after them as if they are the equivalent to some of these terrorist organizations that we talk about in the Mideast.
Right? Hey, but I got to say this on the flip side of what you just said, though. the flip side of y'all didn't pick the cotton. The other argument that you hear is, yeah, but that was my ancestors. They did that. Like, why should we have to pay for that? Like, why are you taking that out on us? Or why are you still bringing it? Like, that's the past.
Because because if you don't try to destroy the system of racism, that means you're a willing participant and you benefit from it. So you can't be on both sides. You can't be on both sides of it. If you care that much that it shouldn't exist, then we should see people of all races, whatever a race is, all human beings trying to destroy this thing. I don't see any evidence of anybody trying to destroy this thing. I see more evidence of people want things to be status quo. That's just from my observation. I could be wrong.
Yeah, so, and now the reparations piece covers a gamut too, because of course, first thing people think is 40 acres and a mule. You know, it's the first thing people think when you hear reparations. But now, I mean, it could come in so many forms. Like, one of the things that gets me, you know, is when they kind of parade around and like do the apology tours, or they like name a street after somebody or a building after somebody.
Symbolism,
right.
Finest.
Symbolism. And so here's one for you. Instead of taking all that money of constructing some sort of edifice and putting a black person's name on it that was, you know, tortured or, you know, discriminated, you know, and was just a victim of some of the worst racism ever, how about we take that money and give it to their family? You follow me? Like, but nobody ever thinks of that empowerment piece, because the economic empowerment is something that's always going to be, you know, shied away from. So, you know, we got to wise up about getting all excited because my great grandfather's name was on something. Well, what is that doing for you?
No, and I 100% agree with that. I mean, the fact that the 40 acres and a mule, I always chuckle at that because, you know, the government has been on record of saying, yeah, we didn't do what we said we were gonna do, and the fact that we are so fearful to even ask also tells me a little bit more about where we are. Is that we're scared. What and I don't mind fear, but understand what you're scared of. You're scared because you know that sometimes these people have more power than you can even imagine, and that you've assimilated so much into their society that now the same people that are mistreating you, the same people that have terrorized you, the same people that have created all these stereotypes. And I tell people all the time, everything that we do as African American, we are the most unique people on the earth because we were brought here against our wills and literally were forced to assimilate into a society that literally they didn't want us here. You were never wanted. I mean, you go back to Lincoln. Everybody loves Lincoln. Lincoln also wanted us to go to the coast of Africa after we were freed. So now what do we do as a people? Now, I will say this, even after all that negative stuff, and I'll let you bounce it back, man, we are the most resilient people on the face of this earth, bro.
Yeah.
I'm talking resilient. And I want people to remember that. If we're that resilient, all we're doing is directing our energy in different places, and we can make positive, constructive changes, man. So I think they said what they said. I think that those are good things that they're asking for. I think people need to look at them. If you're willing to go out there and support that organization and do something constructive and make sure that there's good outcomes that come from it, that's a good thing, man. I mean, I'm not knocking them at all. I mean, that's a lot of black self-respect right there. And like I said, you put an X on your chest when you start talking about racism, man. Everybody knows that. So.
Yeah.